let's articulate a little bit more fully what this pop cultural myth of science is. We might call this scientism, rationalism, atheism, reductionism. In the past, it was called logical positivism, logicism. This is the following idea. It's the idea that basically you have two camps and two ways of looking at the world. You have the scientific and the rational, and then you have the religious and the irrational and the new age and the woo-woo nonsense. These are your two basic categories of things. And so if you're a rational person and you're a truthful person, then you subscribe to the scientific sort of worldview. And then if you're not, if you have some sort of agenda or you're stupid or deluded, then you believe in this hocus pocus stuff over here. And that this stuff is defeated by this stuff over here. If you just use sufficient logic, then that will defeat all of the hocus pocus stuff. And so this sort of battle is set up. This battle is present within the culture and the zeitgeist. And this is how we make sense of various kinds of perspectives that we run into in society, right? So you see somebody like Deepak Chopra on TV talking about something, and you immediately, if you're a scientifically minded person, you just kind of lump him into the woo-woo crowd, the crazy, irrational crowd. Or, you see Gwyneth Paltrow and her like Goop stuff, her Goop company, and you just kind of throw that all into the irrational camp with the crazy religious nutcases and the fundamentalists and the radicals and whatever else. And, they're not being logical. Well, I hate to break it to you, but it's not so simple. It's way more complicated than this. And so this sort of myth of science, it puts science on this pedestal, like science is the ultimate achievement of man. Science is how we get to objective truth. It literally is objective truth. And the only problem we have is that we have these New Agers and these woo-woo people, and we have these religious fundamentalists who are just so brainwashed that if we just get people to forget about God and to forget about all this crazy religious New Agey stuff and all this, cult stuff, and just get them to think more rationally and more scientifically, then that will solve all of mankind's problems. And that is the best that we can do. That will lead us to objective truth. And that will solve so many problems in society. Well, this is a myth. This is false. This will never work. And I will explain in a lot of detail going forward why it will never work. See, this myth idealizes and lionizes science. And then when you subscribe to that myth, you become very defensive, of course, because you've lionized it, you've idealized it, and now you're sort of committed to defending science to the death. Ironically, kind of the way that religious people do with their ideology. You see, the problem here is when you get really attached to one particular perspective or worldview, then you start to bend over backwards to defend that worldview, even in light of contrary evidence, and then you have a divergence of that worldview from the truth, and then all sorts of devilry and disaster ensues. You have to remember that it's culture that creates scientists. Scientists are not born. Scientists are created by culture. And in turn, scientists then contribute to creating and changing culture again. And so it's a sort of a self-feeding cycle. See? And we got to look at culture in a lot more depth to see how it creates scientists and how scientists create culture. So this myth of science is, in a sense, it's not separate from the academic and the professional scientists. It's fed by the academic and professional scientists, and then that myth gets perpetuated in our media and elsewhere, on online forums, through Reddit, through these sort of YouTube channels that are trying to debunk religion and so forth, and the new atheist movement that has been popular in the last 20 or 10 years. This sort of stuff, that's all part of the culture. And then that in turn creates the next generations of scientists, which then get that worldview imprinted as part of their operating system of their mind, and then they will use that to do their science.